The days are longer, the calendar is filling up, and I want to feel as good as this beautiful summer weather. That's why I've been loving Groons. It's one daily pack of gummies that covers my greens, vitamins, and minerals, and even has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber. So I don't need to juggle a complicated wellness routine on top of everything else. They taste amazing. They're easy to toss in my bag on the go. Plus, they're vegan, gluten-free, and HSA, FSA eligible for reimbursement. Save up to 52% off with promo code podcast at gruns.co. That's code podcast at gruns.co.
Hello, everyone. This is Dawn Mitchell, and welcome to Dawn of Sports. Today, I'm really excited to have our guest here in studio, Rachel Joy Swardson. We're going to talk about her project, which is amazing, and it's a topic that a lot of people I know lately have been talking about, the Best Friend Project. It's a podcast. I was teasing with her. It's a movement. It's everything. We've all had those friendships that are difficult, especially as women. Do you keep them? Do you ditch them? And just how they form your life. So we've got so much more of that. And we're going to pick Jim's brain about men's friendships as well. All that coming up.
Not much to pick, but go ahead. This is Dawn of Sports. Dawn, of course, star in the sports department at Fox 9 in Minneapolis. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. Best way to listen to this show or any of our many shows at talknorth.com. Please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free, it's easy, and we appreciate it. Find all the other shows at talknorth.com. Also, let you know that Tammy Henderson, our Vice President of Business Development, is a great person to work with. If you want to sponsor this show, if you want to participate in this show, reach out to Tammy T. Henderson at talknorth.com, and we'll tell you about our other sponsors here in a moment.
All right. Well, thank you, Jim. Well, Rachel, first of all, welcome to our studio.
Thank you.
I love talking to people that also have a performance, a television background. Also, you're a private investigator. And like every time I learn something more about you, I'm like, you are more interesting and more interesting. And when you have this whole background coming from St. Paul, you have two brothers. One famous brother, Nick Swardson, who is a comedian that we all know and love as well. And then your brother, Robert?
John.
John.
Yes.
Is he older or younger? Is John older or younger?
John is older. So I'm the middle child. Nick is the youngest.
Okay.
And then John is a musician in town. So he plays all over.
So nobody is talented in your family at all. No. Wow. You got the musician, the comedian. You could do reports on it all.
I sure
investigate it all. Oh, wow. Your whole family has so much talent. And when you came to this, what we're talking about, the Best Friend Project, when you came to this idea, I really love the fact that we'll talk a little bit more about how you spread the word and got it out to do a survey. Was there a friendship in mind for you that was the genesis of this whole thing?
Yeah. Yes. Very sadly and unfortunately, it was a catastrophic and sudden breakup.
Oh, wow.
That led to me embarking on this project, largely because I realized when I got the text from her that said, this friendship is over, this is non-negotiable, it was like blindsiding.
Wow.
And at first I thought she was kidding. So I was like, okay, what's going on? Let's, just kind of like, okay, what?
You don't know tone of a text.
Totally.
Right?
And then no response. And she ended up just completely ghosting me. And this was after like a 12-year friendship. And I think it's important to frame up too, she was my very first like best friend. And I'd never had a best friend before. And I don't say that even remotely flippantly, I remember driving and being like, I have a best friend. Like I was so excited. I was like, this is what it's all about. But I had, tons of like childhood friends, and then you sort of move through life and things, and, had something awful happen in late junior high, early high school that kind of pushed me into the wrong crowd. And I don't have any high school friends from that period because I wasn't
the right people.
I wasn't. And many of them are actually dead.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, and they didn't die in high school, but they stayed in that vein.
Right.
I got help for what I had gone through and then put myself through school. Yes, working as a private investigator, waitressing, bartending, downtown Minneapolis. But I worked 3 jobs through college. The only friend I have in college is just because we waitressed at the same restaurant. So I didn't join a sorority. I didn't have friends. And then right when I graduated from college, my dad got sick. And so I was taking care of him full time while working full time as a producer at PBS. And, and so it's like, when I look back at my life, like very serious things happened to me along the way. Yeah.
And early, defining.
Right. And so I think I have an unusual gap in like learning and skills when it came to friendship and friend intimacy and vulnerability and defensiveness and judgment and, things that are just sort of normal parts of female friendship that I'd be like, I hate you, because I don't know how to deal with it.
Well, the key word I think that you said is vulnerability, because that is the true bond of friendship, right? You can be in proximity, you could, work, at a same job. Sometimes I say, wow, was I a friend of convenience? Sometimes because we had the same schedule. So then once you're not working that job, once you're not on that schedule, how much do they really show up or how much do you really show up? But when the vulnerability takes place, that's what forms. But that's where the heartbreak is, because people don't really talk about friendship breakups being as hard as maybe a divorce or even worse. And why is that? Is it, I remember reading when I was looking at this whole thing saying, I love this best friend project, that it's the grieving process that's not there. There's no systems in place. Can you explain more about that?
Yeah. I mean, Dawn, it's remarkable how in romantic language, we have so many different identifiers for how we show up in romance, and we have our love languages, or we've got frameworks to say, this is how I am as a romantic partner, and kind of work from there to find your ideal life partner. Right.
Right.
On the other side of all of this, we've got, indisputable research that shows that women with friends are happier, healthier, live longer. And that's not opinion. That is very well proven. And yet we don't have frameworks and structures to deal with friendship fallouts. And we haven't normalized those types of conversations. Like if you go on a date with someone and you're dating and then it's not working out, you sort of have a talk or, it's not working for me and what can we both do differently and all this kind of stuff. But we don't do that in friendship. And if we were to say in a friend, like, hey, I feel like this is, all of a sudden you're needy, you're clingy, it's icky for both of you because it's just not normal to have that. That's something that this project is really committed to drilling into and looking at so that we can bring more language to that framework.
Yes. That's what I really like, is it's having that language, having to, I know, Jim, we were talking early before the podcast, how it's hard to communicate and hard to find the language, even harder, I would say, for men too, if you have men friendships, and I don't want to stereotype men, that men don't talk about their relationships, but I'm sure that if they don't do that, Jim, they don't talk about their friendships, right? I mean, have you ever had a breakup of a male friendship that was just kind of weird and you just kind of dropped it? Or do you just not get deep enough or vulnerable enough to call them like your bestie?
I don't want to talk about it.
So is it hard though? I mean, come on.
I don't want to speak for all men. I'll just say that for me, it's like, usually if there's a conflict that isn't easy to resolve, usually you just kind of write it off, move on.
But you keep the friend, right? You just try to let it go. Oh, you move on from the guy. Oh, okay.
I'm saying you move on from the friendship.
Okay.
I don't think, I know I'm not good at resolving those kinds of things. I don't know many men who are.
Okay. So do you just ghost someone? Like not text them back or call them back? Or is it just
really depends on the situation. It really depends on the situation. I mean, I've had people who I thought deserved to be ghosted. And I've also had people that it just petered out. You tried to resolve it, or you tried to have a conversation about it, and that just went nowhere. And you're like, you both just kind of shrug and leave it where it was.
Right. Well, Rachel, let me ask you this. Jim brought it up, the long, slow fade to black. We've all dated people, right? And we've let it go to that long, slow fade to black. But That's hard in friendships, especially like you were talking about. You had a best friend.
Yeah.
So it's usually abrupt, and I don't want to get into details if you don't want to
No,
share,
it's okay.
but you can't really do that sometimes.
Well, and it's kind of twofold. So when like Jim's talking about you say slow back, people call it drifting.
Drifting.
The number one reason why women in my survey have cited their friendship ended, they just drifted apart.
Interesting.
And yet, of the women that recognize something drifted apart, they carry the most regret later in life about that friendship, how they wish they had held on. They wish they had handled it differently. So we might think right now drifting is really easy for us because we're busy, we're this. There comes a time where we are less busy and we can have that reflection. And it's so devastating to read these surveys for women saying like, I wish, I could call her, or I miss her, or too much time has gone by. It would just be weird if I called her now. But so many women are saying, I would answer the phone if someone called. I just can't make the call.
Right.
And it was funny on your Blontourage episode, so cute with Belle and Lee, when you guys were talking about life changes, and Belle made, kind of a casual comment about some friends who were newly unemployed kind of later in life, not expecting it, looking for jobs. Things had gotten kind of difficult for them.
Mm-hmm.
The next version of that is they downsized, they moved to a different community, they're new there. There's a separation between who they consider their friends now.
Yeah.
And no one would want to admit it. People would say, oh no, we'll still be friends. You won't, because things change and everybody changes and it's unexpected. The highest percent, like the median age of people filling in this survey are in their mid 50s. And they're going, I never thought I would be in this situation with this few friends. I've always had friends and now I don't. And I didn't see this coming.
Let's talk about the survey for a little bit. What I find amazing is how you went about gathering the data. And because, some people aren't going to admit it. They don't want to say it. Who's going to see it? I don't want to talk about this friend or that friend. You put it in bathrooms. Can you explain that?
I really did. Yeah. And here's the thing. It wasn't like I woke up one day and was like, oh, I'm going to launch a survey and, kick it off in the bathrooms of, public places. It really became, I am so hurt and devastated, but desperately want to know the answer to how do people do friendship?
Mm-hmm.
Like I literally wanted to walk up to strangers and plead with them. Like, how do you make friendship work? Because I just felt like absolutely toolless. I didn't have any skills to reach back to her or to really audit what I had done wrong, and where I didn't speak up earlier on in the friendship. And I was so full of like regret and shame and anger and sadness, but I could not go public with that question. Like the last thing I was going to do was like put a poll out on my Instagram. Like,
right. And then that person will be like, oh, I know who that's directed to.
Yeah. And I just, so I desperately needed this answer, but I was so hurt and humiliated. I could not verbalize it. And so I just had all these postcards printed up and I just started putting them in bathroom stalls because I was thinking like, you have like 90 seconds to go in there, unzip your pants, like pee.
But there's privacy.
Total privacy. And you're alone with this postcard and it's just black, white. There's no branding. There's no nothing. And initially I just was wanting to like get a salve to hurt my wound.
Yeah.
I didn't think I would uncover the incredible insights that I
said, it's a movement.
And then the archetypes that have come out of it and the book that is now in the works and all of these things that I feel like are really happening. But what was so interesting too, so there's the surveys stuff and that people would scan in the bathroom, put in their email, and then they get emailed the survey so they could fill it out when they have more time. But the metadata from the survey stuff, done like sidebar, like museums have the highest rate of engagement.
Really?
Yeah. Concerts and like hockey games, nothing. Because I think people are like peeing, like there's a line down the hall. Yeah, you're like zippering as you're walking out. Like you're just like, so museums, libraries, highest rate of engagement. Grocery stores really high too. And also airports.
That's the number one thing I thought of.
Okay. MSP has the best, cleanest bathrooms. I put my signs up and then I board my plane and I hop onto the, Delta Wi-Fi and I pull up my QR code scanning thing because I'm like obsessed with seeing who scanned. My signs are instantly down. The Ohio Cincinnati airport,
Yeah.
3-4 months my signs stay up.
Stop.
Like they're not cleaning their bathrooms at all. Yeah,
Oh.
I know.
Well, I love those. I do love the stalls there, but great way to get your info out.
Let's take care of the people who take care of us. We are coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios, and we want you to know more about Aquarius Home Services. Thanks to another great Minnesota company, Minnesota Masonic Charities. And also, I do have some friends who are trying out Lucy nicotine pouches. If that's your thing, definitely try out Lucy.
I've talked about Lucy before because my friends keep telling me it's their go-to pouch. Well, here's the update. Now it's even easier to try because you can grab Lucy at Quick Trip. A bunch of them have tried them all, and now Lucy is their go-to. They call them top-notch lip pillows, and honestly, they say it's the best pouch experience they've ever had. The flavors are strong and actually last. Mint, apple ice, mango, espresso, berry citrus, and apple cider. Not sure where to start? Grab the 6-pack and try them all. And the real difference is Lucy Breakers. Each pouch has a little breaker ball inside. Bite it and you get an extra burst of flavor with a smooth nicotine kick that lasts longer. Lucy is smooth, long-lasting, and doesn't dry out. Give them a try. Get 20% off your first order when you buy online at lucy.co/Dawn with a promo code DAWN. That's lucy.co/Dawn with the promo code DAWN. And if you don't want to wait, check out their store locator to find where you can pick up Lucy at the nearest Quick Trip today. And here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of a legal age, and every customer is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Back to you, Dawn.
All right. Well, you mentioned archetypes, and I'm really interested in what did your research show on that?
So, and again, this is completely unexpected, but the reason I started asking the survey questions in the first place was because I could not find the answers to the questions I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So as an interviewer, it's like if every single time you ask the wrong question, you're going to get the wrong answer.
Right.
And I saw a repetition in the answers or the questions that were being asked, and they weren't being just asked to women and all this stuff. But I wanted to know, like, did people have a sister? Did they trust their mother growing up? How did they rate themselves as a friend?
Mm-hmm.
What are they looking for in a friend? What are the number one most repellents that their friends have had? Like things that drive people crazy. Like I wanted to know those things because all this other friendship stuff was like, I left myself going, okay, but now what? Okay,
Right.
but now what? Like, so yes, you know how to reach out or be vulnerable or ask someone, what if you don't even have friends in the first place?
Exactly.
Like, how do you just like start over and do this and do it well? And so going back to the drifting thing, people say they're drifting. Well, when you say it like that, you think drifting came first, but what you didn't realize is you're on a current your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the temperature of which you react to things. It's the speed of which you move on. The current's always there, but the drifting happens because you just didn't anchor in, you didn't tether in. And why was that, right? And the archetypes that have come forward through all of this data. So thousands of women have scanned, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women have filled in this survey. And I was like, what am I sitting on?
Mm.
And through all of this, just analysis and like just slicing and dicing, layering, like the Harvard Happiness Study, like pushing other studies in to see, like, was I right? Was I in the right direction? Was this unique? Was this repetitious? But these 5 distinct archetypes have emerged for friendships that help kind of frame up who you are as a friend. And if you know who you are first, then you're like, okay, now I know why I show up like this.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with mother trust at a young age. So women that have low mother trust at a young age are more apt to rate themselves the best possible friend you could ever have.
Really?
Yes. And they're more also likely to cite betrayal as the number one reason a friendship ends. And that segment is ghosted and been ghosted the most.
Hmm.
So what that tells us about that person is they didn't get the love that they needed early on, and they have consistently chased it in their adult friendships to the extent that they're never missing a birthday. They're never missing an event. They're always showing up on time. But if you don't, they take it as an infraction.
Betrayal.
Absolutely. And
not just life got busy.
Right. And they might drift or ghost on you because they're like, you did this. You don't even know that you did something wrong.
Right.
And you're like, okay. Conversely, women with high mother trust rate themselves the lowest friend you could have. And they cite drama as the number one reason a friendship ends.
Interesting.
Right. Because they inherited a sense of security and confidence.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to remember every birthday. They know they can show up late and you will still love them.
Sounds like me.
But you're lucky.
I don't remember birthdays. I
Yeah.
show up late sometimes, but I love my friends.
Yes. And you have the confidence to know that they're going to love you. You don't
Yeah.
have to be perfect.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And yet that type is apt to cite drama as the number one reason a friendship ends, which is probably because they've never really had to deal with drama. But really that drama is just someone being less far along in the journey of development. And so to quickly dismiss that versus have that conversation, and instead of ghosting, instead of drifting, to say, I react like this when you spaz on me, and I think of it as drama, but am I looking at it the right way or the wrong way? Or is there something you want to talk about?
Right.
You know, because our friendships are worth that. And even if the friendship is a foregone conclusion and you just shouldn't be friends, like me and my friend, my former friend, I now understand we shouldn't be friends. And I'm fine with that. But to leave the learning on the table,
That's hard.
Well, yeah. And that sets me up for failure going forward.
Right. Because you don't know.
No idea. You know? And so if we don't audit the end of those relationships, we're leaving the learning on the table. We're more apt to repeat that and chase just happiness and just live with less fulfillment socially. It's like, why would we choose that if we could just talk?
One interesting thing that you and I were talking about, I have a male friend of mine, and was just chatting about how, I recently saw some friends that I've not seen in eons. And he was like, wow, you've got some friends for that long. And I said, yeah. And he said, it's a red flag for me when someone doesn't have any friends from there. It doesn't have to be, like you said, your high school, it was tough years. But when their best friend is their best friend in the world, like this is my best friend ever in the entire world, and they've only known each other 6 months. He said, that's like a huge red flag for me. Like, I don't know if I will become friends with someone whose only circle of friends were at the last 6 months to a year. Is that fair? Let's put that in a female realm. Is that fair to say?
I mean, I can completely understand his point, and I think that would be an assessment, judgment that most people would make. Like, there's definitely something wrong with this person. Maybe there is. And, people that just change social circles that quickly, it sounds like they're still trying to find themselves.
Right.
And so good luck, eventually you'll get there, hopefully. Right. But I do think it's, it is, again, important to have that conversation about why don't they have those friends?
Yeah.
Because maybe something happened to them. Did you ever watch the show, The White Lotus?
Yes.
Okay. So season 3 with Carrie Coon and the three
there
women.
Yet. Yeah. Not on season 3 yet.
Oh, God. Okay.
You can tell me though. It's okay.
Okay. Well, there's a scene.
Okay.
So it's the 3 friends and they, one's like a movie star, one's a school teacher. They're different, but they're like the classic childhood friends that reconnect once every couple of years, to do their whatever thing. And it just, every time one leaves the room, the other 2 talk about them consistently. And Mike White did such a brilliant job creating these characters because you're just cringing because you're all of them. You're like, oh God, I've totally done that. But then at the very end, Carrie Coon, Emmy Award winning monologue where she talks about, but we have history and you just can't substitute that. You can't earn that. Like, you have to live it. And it's frustrating. And, you guys piss me off and you leave me feeling empty and I suck the life out of me every time I'm with you, but I fucking love you and you're my friends and I'll never not have you in my life. And, you just have to go like, yeah, we don't have to be perfect. We can be annoying and flawed and, go through different phases, but that connection is just invaluable.
And sometimes they're more like family than sometimes your family is when you've got that. But the key is kind of talking about that and saying it, and not holding it in, like saying, oh my gosh, you're exhausting, but I love you, and then moving forward that way.
Well, yeah, because Don too, at the core of all of this, we are living in an epidemic of loneliness. I mean, the Surgeon General declared it a couple years ago. We are the loneliest and the least happy we've ever been. And yet, according to technology, the most connected. And we're not happier and we're not healthier and we're not better for it.
Because you can break up on text.
Right, exactly. I mean, and you can doom scroll for hours instead of showing up, and you can couch rot instead of getting out and seeing people, but until we get really serious about having these hard conversations and normalizing them within our friendships, that loneliness is just going to continue.
Awkward place to break. This is such deep stuff. It's so interesting. It's so intricate. But we will get back to it in 1 second. We do want to thank the Minnesota Twins and remind you they are in contention at the All-Star break.
Here is where it all starts. Here's where pages are turned and new legends are written. Here's where kids become lifelong fans and lifelong fans become kids. Here's where sunsets last longer, happy hour tastes better, and summer hits its stride. And when all of Twins territory stands together and believes hard enough, well, there's no place like here. Get your tickets at twins.com.
Also want to welcome one of our newer sponsors here at Dawn of Sports, Citizens Independent Bank. Recently, we did a Her Playbook, a Dawn of Sports leadership series, highlighting Don Bakken and his family and the women in his family who've helped make that bank and help the local business community grow. So thanks again to Citizens Independent Bank. Women's sports don't grow because of one moment. They grow because people keep showing up. The fans, the athletes, the entrepreneurs, the local businesses investing in their communities and believing in what's possible. At Citizens Independent Bank, they believe that same local connection is what helps people reach their goals, with financial solutions built around relationships, not transactions. Citizens Independent Bank, unlock the power. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. And back to Dawn.
Well, Rachel, Jim was right when we're talking about this is such kind of deepness, because there's so many, even people in my life that say if we get together and we walk around the lake or something like that. And I have I have a close circle, especially here in Minnesota, of really good girlfriends, but I think I've learned over the years to cultivate really good women. So much so that my friends back from home in Boston are now friends with these women here.
Oh, I love that.
And they'll text each other and call each other. And I love that. I'm a connector.
Yes.
And I don't get jealous. I actually get happy if I hear that, like, oh, my friends from home are actually friends with my friends here. But we all have those conversations, whether we walk around a lake or go out for a coffee, about someone that hurt you and then like just ghosted you or just texted you and said something, or won't have those conversations. I have the hardest time dealing with people who do the silent treatment.
Worst.
And I've just learned a friend of mine's a psychologist, because that's emotional abuse.
Yeah.
That's punishment. I have a hard time with that, because I'll apologize and let's talk it out. Like, okay, if you need a day, you might say something you regret in the heat of the moment. But if you go longer than 4 days or something like that, that's abusive. And I have a hard time with that. But now I know with me, I have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
So especially I think female relationships are like that. So we always are having these conversations about our other friendships.
Yeah.
And it's hard to give advice. That's why I'm glad that you're actually getting data, because of course you'll have a friend like, well, I never liked her. And you don't want to get into that situation. Right. You just really want, like, how am I going to heal my heart? Do I move forward with this friendship? Do I not move forward with this friendship? Like you said, there's a history. Do you keep that going? What have you found?
Well, but also, when we started this conversation, you said, the best and breakups, like that can be harder than divorce. And it is, because it's so isolating. When I went through my divorce, I knew, like, oh, she's divorced. Can we go to happy hour and talk about it?
Right.
When I was having a baby, I'm like, okay, get 9,000 books, like take a class. Like when I was starting a business or making a recipe, like we have things for all that. But the guide to have that friendship just isn't there. And so it is lonely. It is isolating. And to talk about it with other people sort of perpetuates that chatty, gossipy,
Yeah.
not constructive. You know what I mean?
You want to heal and be positive. You don't want to drag it down.
Right.
More.
But you do need to like kind of, you know, like if it was a romantic partner,
Right.
it would be normal to talk about it with your girlfriends.
Oh yeah. My girlfriends would give him a 2-word nickname
sure.
in a heartbeat.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
You know, but then if it's not, so it's like, so it's so much more isolating. And what I will say about the silent treatment, it to me is the worst thing you can do to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if someone says, I need a minute, I need a week, I need a year, I don't care. Just say something.
Yeah.
And in my case, after she sent that text and then I texted her and said, what's going on? I love you. You know, if I did something wrong, I apologize. We both have really kind of twisted senses of humor, but maybe I said something wrong. No response. So then I double texted her and was furious. Can I swear on your show?
Yeah, go right ahead.
But I was furious and I was just like, this is, you know, like, what is going on? I don't deserve this. This is ridiculous. Da, 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 da. No response. And then months and months and months and months of the silent treatment, which was doubly cutting for me because she was my best friend. She knew that my mom would give me the silent treatment and not talk to me for weeks when I was a child. And so it felt very intentional and like,
And
even
hurtful,
even
on
like
purpose.
sinisterly,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Which maybe it even wasn't. But then like months later, I accidentally called her because she was in my favorites.
Oh yeah.
And so I reached over to text my son and I accidentally hit her number. So I was like, end call, and like hot potato, like end call. Like, And then, you know, quick, because I didn't want her to see that I'd called. So then I quickly texted and said, disregard, I actually accidentally texted you. Meanwhile, during that 3 months, like I was crying myself to sleep. I was talking to my husband about it. I was like physically didn't feel good. My youngest son had just gone off to college. She breaks up with me. And then I moved to Dallas for the winter. And so I'm no friends. Isolated. I mean, it was the loneliest, worst time. So then I text her and said, you know, disregard. And she writes back and says, you're in my favorites and always will be. I just needed some time. And I was like, no, like I have been through hell. And then she's like, oh, I guess I didn't realize 3 months had gone by. Well, my, you know, and the litany of excuses. And I was like, keep going, try again. Like all these, well, my remodel is behind schedule and I was stressed out and I was like,
how about, I'm sorry. It's been so long. Just 2 words. I'm so sorry. It's been so long.
Yeah. Or I wish I, you know, and I mean,
I'm so glad you accidentally texted me. I've been missing you.
Yeah. And I've been through, you know, in this terrible funk and nothing. I mean, so Don, to your point, the silent treatment is horrible, but then the non-apology apology. And I was just like, to me, it was like this cauterization that was like, okay, not only am I done with this, I need to own my behavior that led to this.
Yeah.
And ultimately, what's been so interesting with the guests that I've had on my podcast who have pulled in from the survey, I have learned so much from these conversations. And through one of them that I just had with this amazing 2 friends, one is a ayahuasca administrator and the other is a skydiver.
Wow.
So like one's like in the earth, the other one's like not even on the earth, you know? But what was revealed through that conversation with them is I didn't feel safe in my friendship.
Yeah.
Which is why I didn't speak up. And emotional safety is the number one thing that women want in a friendship. And so, you know, kind of going back to that conversation that you were saying about like a friend and stuff, for us to create emotional safety within our relationships so that they feel comfortable, we feel comfortable, and it's okay to talk about it.
Right.
You know, like, do you feel safe talking to me about this? Because I feel like our relationship is changing, or I think you don't like my husband and therefore you're avoiding me, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Or like you said, the non-apology. Some people just pick up like nothing ever happened.
Right.
Like, hey, you know, what you doing today? And you're like, really? Like, we're just not going to address? Are you not going to apologize to me?
Yeah.
Like, I apologize to you, or we're just going to move forward. And a little bit of yourself gets chipped away if you go along with that to make the peace. You know, like you said, like for you, a long time, you didn't speak up.
Oh my God, Dawn, there were so many things that I didn't say anything about that I wish I had, but I didn't can I say something?
Yeah.
I was like, do I ever say this? But so when I was single, she created a Bumble profile without me knowing.
What?
And yes. And so 'cause she was married, but not very happily. She created and I didn't know any of this until my boss at the time walked into my office and she had swiped on him, not knowing he was my boss. He walks into my office thinking I'd swiped on him. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then he shows me this and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And so I knew instantly she was behind it because it was a picture from a vacation she and I had been on.
Yeah.
And she went on this whole thing about like, well, you're too picky and you're single and I was going to find you the greatest guy and blah, 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 blah. And I just love you and I want you to be happy. And I was like, this is so violating and wrong. I didn't say anything.
Wow.
Like, why wouldn't I have gone, we're done? That's mental.
Yeah.
But I was like,
thank goodness my boss came to me and didn't look at me weird forever after that.
Yeah. Or like take me to HR or something,
Right,
you know?
right.
But I mean, like, and I just went, okay, well, she just loves you and you should date more. And like,
Yeah.
I mean, so on me,
Yeah.
like there were so many violations that I didn't say anything about.
But you don't know till you know.
Right.
Well, they say you do better when you know better or whatever that, you do better when you can do better.
I just sleep.
So out of this whole, I mean, you did it as a heart project for you.
Yeah.
To heal. And then when you found out people coming out of the woodworks or the bathrooms to kind of to join in on this and give you some tremendous insight, so much so it's a podcast, but now it's going to be a book.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not joking around when I said this is a movement. So whenever you talk to someone, friendship breakups, my dad said to me, my dad has passed, but one of the most impressive compliments he ever gave to me was, and it also came with a little bit of sorrow. He said, you know what, I'm so proud of you on so many different levels, but I'm really proud. And I thought he was going to list like either a job or blah, blah,
or your
blah.
Emmys.
Right? Or something like that. Because my dad was very much like that. He told you how proud he was, usually on Sundays or at weddings, when you're doing the father-daughter dance at someone's wedding.
Oh.
It was so sweet. But I remember I was living in Chicago at the time and he said to me, I'm just really proud of your friendships.
Wow.
And for a man to say that,
Yeah.
and it was not what I expected out of my dad's mouth. He goes, I am just really proud of the friendships that you have made in your life and these men and women that are your friends. Like you make tremendous friends. And if I have one regret in my life, I wish that I cultivated more friendships. I love your mother. Your mother's my best friend, but I did not keep many friends, if any, that I could call tomorrow and do something or, and I saw this my dad had like that little Irish sparkle, but he had a little sadness in that.
Yeah.
And it made me, I said, you don't even think about your parents, like,
right.
In terms of friendships where I'm like, one of my red flags when I date a guy is if he gets mad if I go out with my friends. Because I want you to go out and golf with your guy friends or play poker. Like I want you to have that night, that guy's weekend, because I'm going to have mine.
Yeah.
I'm going to have my weekend with my friends. Because for me, that's a green flag of healthiness.
Yes.
Where I've dated men where they don't want that. And I'm like, nope. Now I know maturity, like, nope. Like, that's not what I want. So to have my dad from a different generation call that out.
Yeah.
But to dive in, which friendships are healthy, which are not, because I've had to, you have to navigate those waters and people don't talk about it. So kudos to you for actually talking about it, especially for women like us who don't have sisters.
Yeah.
It was good for me to learn after reading your stuff that if you're an only sister or if you don't have sisters, it does not affect your friendship. So I was like, yes, when I read that, I'm like, what is this psychology thing going to say about me? But
because I went into it with these hypotheses because I was like, I bet women with sisters are way better at friendship.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah, that made me feel so much better.
Same. But okay, so question for you then, like, how do you think you've managed to keep such a broad swath of friends through your whole life?
I work at it. I think maybe because I have moved a lot for my job. And even, friends of mine, it's ebbed and flowed in terms of, after I left, I went to Boston College, and some of my high school friends went elsewhere. You have to work to reconnect, like I didn't have Facebook,
Sure,
when
yeah.
I was in college, So like if you didn't have your friend's parents' phone number and if they moved, forget it, because at home phone, like it was hard to keep in touch. I think once Facebook came out, and then you reconnect with a lot of people, you made friendship phone call dates.
Oh, cute.
And I was really big on that because I just didn't want to be like a little text here and there. It's like, and you needed to have time where you could talk, because especially in my business, I can't talk in my sports office and I can't do this. It's got to be on my off day.
Yeah.
So a lot of mine, I'll walk around one of the lakes in town and I put on my phone and I have a conversation and I catch up.
Yeah.
And I really work hard at that. Because now, I live here in Minnesota. My family is all back still in Massachusetts. So I feel like your friends are the family that you create.
Mm-hmm.
And just with families, you have to work at it. You have to show up. Even when it's not convenient, you have to make that phone call and say, hey, I wrote it down that they had a big meeting coming up. I'm going to call them the next day and say, how did it go?
Yeah.
So you have to show up for your friends. And you also have to be honest about the ones that, and I don't do reciprocity in terms of a bank account. I call them bank account friends. I don't do bank account friends where, oh, well, I invite you to this. You have to invite me to this. Like, those transactional relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I think it all evens out in the wash, but there has to be a level of reciprocity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that sometimes, I think you had mentioned, Reese Witherspoon talked about editing your friends list. You have to be honest as an adult. Like, where's the reciprocity?
Yeah.
Like, how do they give back to me? And it doesn't mean they have to do something or buy something or anything, but how do they fill my cup as well?
Yeah.
And so I think the editing process, some of it has been the long, slow fade to black, I call it. Or sometimes, it's just like, all right, it's understood that we're not going to be tight anymore. But my good friends, I really work at.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Well, and it's interesting too, because the editing of your friend, how do you know when you're edited or not? Or, because we don't, like Jay Shetty has that kind of dumb thing, like it's a season and a reason and a whatever, like just because it rhymes, like they're like, oh, let's make that a thing. It's not a thing. Because if you and I are sitting here and we're friends, but I'm like, we're just in it for a season. And you're like, no, we're like actually friends.
Mm-hmm.
Then one of us is going to be hurt or confused or, have mixed feelings about where our friendship went. And I really appreciate what you said about your dad. And he's not alone in that, and it's what I talked about referencing the conversation with, Belle and Lee. Like as you age, you start to go, where did everybody go? Because if they're not doing that intentional work like you are, you do end up alone. And you know how they have that, I'm blanking on her name, but she did the hospice worker that kind of did that list of six things that.
Yeah.
So, and everyone talks about like the number one thing is like, no one says, I wish I had worked more.
Right.
People don't go down the list far enough. But number 4 is they wish they had kept more friends.
Interesting.
So then maybe you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s going, was it really worth spazzing at that person about? Or did that, she was going through divorce. She was just unbearable. And I just had to cut her out of my life. Could I have not made that decision? Could I have been a little bit more patient that her life, changed and it didn't align with where I was and I just dismissed it,
Yeah, I think some people are very quick to do that, to do the, silent treatment or the kick you out, and it's so funny. My friends and I always say, you can tell who's done the work. And when we say the work, we can tell who's like been through either a loss and has had like, therapy or like, oh, they haven't done the work, so you can just tell. And so if they've done the work and they do that, my delineation for me in friendships are, did you hurt me on purpose or unintentionally? And if it's unintentionally, I'll work with you.
Yeah.
If it was on purpose and you knew what you were doing, no.
Yeah.
And for me, there doesn't have to be drama. There doesn't have to be the conversation.
Yeah.
It just has to be, if they asked you to coffee or something like this, a plate, no thank you, or I'm busy. Like after a while, you don't have to say like, I'm never seeing you again. No. And to try to have that discussion when you did X, Y, and Z, try to find out. And if they admit, it was on purpose, or, you can tell by their answer it was on purpose, that's not the people that I want to have in my life.
Yep.
Because I know I'm going to mess up, not on purpose and not know. And I'm going to be like, I am so sorry. Or it was unintentional. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings when it because I'm a Sagittarius. Sometimes I blurt things out, like I didn't mean it to come out harsh. I meant it with love, you know. But when some people do things on purpose, and when I find that out, they're not in my inner circle anymore.
Right. And it's the intention to hurt you.
Yeah.
Like you have the intention to keep that friendship. And I just roll that, like, my friends are never trying to gun for me, like they're my friends.
Yes.
Like they're never trying to hurt. Like that's what family's for, right? Family's going to be like, but like your friends aren't going to do that.
Yeah.
So it can be very, awful to have that happen. So.
Well, I really appreciate you, first of all, opening up about how it happened to you. And Jim, I appreciate you talking about the men's side of things. Like when I heard about, when my dad said that about friendships, men tend to have their wives as their close friends or their husbands as their close friends and sometimes don't open it up. But I think there is, and Jim, maybe you can speak to it, new generation of men having healthy, good male friendships, and whether they go on their golf trips or however they maintain it, it's okay now to really do that. Have you seen a shift, Jim, at all with men in terms of being more open with their friendships?
I'm a terrible source for this conversation. I'm seriously. I work a lot.
Yeah.
I spend time with my wife, with my dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I moved to the East Coast so I could be near more family. I have very few close friends, and I don't really cultivate friendships. So I'm probably just a terrible person to talk to about this subject.
Well, I'm not a male, but I am your friend. So I would say that you are a giving.
No,
kind
you're a
person.
good friend, and
Yes.
but you also, as you said, you also make an effort.
Yes.
And not everybody makes an effort.
Yeah. Yeah. So that opens up a lot, doesn't it?
It does. And Jim, I will say C.S. Lewis, who wrote Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, also wrote a gorgeous, very short book called The Four Loves. And it talks about how you can love things.
Yes.
You can love friends.
Mm-hmm.
You can love, romantic love. And then you can have love for pets and things. But it's this differentiation between these four loves. But the way he describes male friendship and just sort of he talks about it's probably in Scotland or something, like a bar, and it's dark inside, but it's light outside, and there's a fire going, and there's just guys with pints just, pontificating, and the door opens and another guy walks in and everyone goes, "Hey," and they all sit down, and he's like, that's male friendship.
Yes.
We couldn't have these conversations if we weren't all sitting here. Do I know their last names? No. Are they my friends? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to share too about the male friendship and any male people, men listening to this podcast, when your women, the women in your life are going through these breakups, just the patience that can come from you can be so helpful, because it is hard to understand if you're a man.
Mm-hmm.
And, my husband was like, well, she's just a bitch. Who cares? And I was like, well, no, look at me bawling my eyes out. I care.
Right.
And so I need you to just not play that role. And he's like, well, okay, I'm not going to say she's super nice. And I was like, I know, but I don't know what you should say, but you have to say something,
Right.
And so it is complicated, and it is a grief, and it is an absolute loss. And, so many women, again, in the survey, regret how they handled things.
Mm-hmm.
85% of the women filling out the survey have a friend they miss.
Yeah.
And that says something, because that's later in life learning, right?
Mm-hmm. Very much so. And, for me, I work with men all the time. I was raised with all men. I had to learn, because I had friendships like guys did.
Yeah.
But I also now, I feel like I understand men, and I think, Jim, you're saying, I don't really have friends. I'm a terrible person to have this conversation. But from me working with men all the time, they still have the same feelings.
Yeah.
It just comes out a little differently. So I feel like sometimes I translate men to my friends, like, well, he didn't care. I'm like, well, he did care.
Yeah.
It just came out this way, and like, well, how do you know? I'm like, I'm around men all the time. It doesn't mean that they don't feel, they're just feeling it this way. So, that's when the whole male-female friendships are, for me, everyone's a brother unless I'm dating you, right? Because it has to be that way. But that's the thing that I got from my brothers.
Oh.
My brothers are amazing men. So
Same.
I can easily hang out with guys and be their buddy and their friend. But I've seen men have really good friendships. I've seen them have tough times, but they still have the same feelings. We just express them a little different, or a lot differently, right? But sometimes I have found men want to immediately fix the problem. Like my dad would still be like, "Why are you telling me for? I can't fix it." I'm like, "I just want you to listen.
I know.
I just want you to listen." "Oh, okay, I can do that." But like my dad would just kind of put that out there.
Yeah.
Because men just want to fix it for you because they see that you're hurting.
Right.
So this podcast that you have and the book that's coming out, this actually helps. I really do think that it helps start the conversation and helps people work through things.
Thank you. And I will say the guests, so I'm 8 episodes in now. The women that I have talked to and the stories that they have shared and the lessons that I've learned from just people, right? Because we're only experts because we live our lives. Like we are so I don't have like quote unquote experts on. Everyone is an expert because this is their human existence. But I am profoundly changed because of these conversations and the archetypes and all of these things. I'm like, oh my gosh, if I had known all of this, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I wouldn't have gone through what I did, but I'm so glad I did so that I could create this work and then have better friendships going forward and hopefully help other people as well.
Well, where can people find your podcast?
I'm so glad you asked. You can find thebestfriendproject.co is where you'll find the survey.
Nice.
And also anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can just look up the Best Friend Project podcast and or with Rachel Swardson, and you can listen to it there.
Well, I'm going to do even more of a deeper dive. I did because I'm like, this is fascinating. I love it. And we don't talk about it enough. So thank you for being vulnerable to open up about your heartbreak.
Thank you.
And breakup and powerfully moving forward as a strong woman. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. And thank you for creating a safe environment for me to feel comfortable talking about it. So,
all right. Well, once the book comes out, we'll have you back on. Woo! We'll talk about that.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you so much, Rachel. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dawn. And thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Rachel.